If I died in my own house, my parents would probably ask me to wait until dinner was over. That sounds dramatic, right? It should be. But I promise you it's not even the worst part. I was born second. 2 years after my brother Evan, the golden child, the miracle baby, the sun around which our family's world revolved. Evan got what he wanted, when he wanted, no matter the cost. My job was to make sure he stayed comfortable. Make your brother's plate first. Don't forget to iron Evan's uniform. Evan needs quiet to study your homework later. From the age of 8, I knew what it felt like to be furniture. Useful, but invisible. I used to think if I was obedient enough, they'd finally see me. But it never worked. If anything, it made things worse. By the time I was 14, I was cooking most dinners, cleaning the house after school, and pretending I wasn't crying in the bathroom when they skipped my school events for Evan's basketball games. But what happened last spring? That was the moment everything shattered. It was a Sunday. The kind of day people post cute brunch pictures about. I woke up early to clean the bathroom because Mom said it smelled like laziness. Then I had to prep lunch for 7 people because Dad's cousin was visiting. Evan? He woke up at 11, walked straight to the couch, and started yelling for snacks. While I was setting the table, I accidentally dropped a spoon. That's when Mom said it. God, Leah, if you're going to be this clumsy, maybe just don't bother trying to help at all. Help. That word hit me like a punch. I wasn't helping. I was doing everything. But I bit my tongue and nodded because if I snapped back, I'd be grounded for disrespect. After lunch, everyone went to the living room to talk and snack. I was left with 3 full sinks of dishes, pots, pans, plates, glasses, greasy trays. No one offered to help. Not even when they stepped over the puddle of water by the sink where I was standing, sleeves rolled up, hands raw. It started with a headache. Then a kind of spinning sensation. I leaned against the counter, blinked hard, and tried to push through. My head was too hot, my stomach was twisting, and I couldn't breathe right. But I kept scrubbing. Until I didn't. Until everything went dark. When I opened my eyes, I was on the floor, my cheek pressed to the cold tile. My arms were trembling. My ears were ringing. And my mother was standing over me, red-faced and panicking, but not for the reason you'd hope. Get up! She snapped. Don't you dare die in the middle of lunch. Your brother's still eating. That's what she said? Not. Are you okay? Not. Should I call 911? Just don't ruin your brother's meal. I wish I was exaggerating. I wish any of this was fiction. But I swear on everything those were her exact words. I tried to sit up, but my vision swam. My heart was racing. I felt like I was floating outside my body. Evan walked into the kitchen then, holding his empty glass. He looked down at me, then at Mom, and said, "Can you tell her to make more lemonade? It's not sweet enough." Mom turned to me like it was a perfectly reasonable request. You heard him. I passed out again before I could scream. When I came to, I was in my room. No doctor. No ambulance. Just a glass of water on my nightstand and a post-it note that said, "Rest, then finish the kitchen." That was the moment something inside me died. But something else was born too. A quiet, burning rage. Not just at them. At me for letting it get this far. I knew I had to do something. I didn't know what yet. But I was done being the servant in a house I didn't even feel safe in. The next day at school, I went to the nurse during 3rd period. Told her I fainted the day before. She looked concerned and asked if I'd eaten. No, I said. I was too busy. She tilted her head. Busy with what? I told her everything. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted someone to finally ask. She didn't say much. But that afternoon, the school counselor called me in. Her name was Ms. Patterson. I'd seen her maybe twice in 3 years. But now she looked at me like I mattered. She asked about home? And I cracked. Told her about the chores, the neglect, the pressure, the way my parents acted like Evan was a god and I was his maid. She listened. She really listened. And then she said something that shook me. Leah, what you're describing isn't just unfair. It's emotional neglect. Possibly abuse. I stared at her. No, they're just traditional. She gave me a sad smile. No, Leah. They're not traditional. They're cruel. That was the first time anyone had named it. And once something has a name, you can't unsee it. That afternoon, she made a call. Not to Child Protective Services, not yet, but to a school liaison officer. Someone trained to assess situations like mine. I was terrified. But part of me hoped that maybe Simeon would finally protect me. That was the day everything changed. That night, I came home to find Mom waiting at the door. Her arms were crossed, her mouth thin and tight. Dad sat in the living room, glaring at the floor like it had personally offended him. I hadn't even taken off my shoes before Mom hissed, "What did you tell them?" I didn't answer. I walked past her, straight to my room, and locked the door. My heart was pounding, and my fingers were shaking, but for the first time in years, I felt something close to power. The next morning, everything was cold silence. No one spoke to me. Not even Evan, who normally tossed insults my way like candy. The house was like a stage where everyone forgot their lines. Then the doorbell rang. 2 women were standing outside. One wore a badge. The other carried a folder and a neutral smile. I recognized the one with the folder. It was Ms. Patterson, my counselor. I was called into the living room with my parents. The woman with the badge introduced herself as Officer Rayner, from Family Services. She said she was there for a wellness check. Mom's face twisted into the fakest smile I'd ever seen. "There's no problem here," she chirped. "Leah's just dramatic. A teenage phase." Ms. Patterson gave me a look. A quiet look that said, "I'm here. Just say the word." And I did. I told them everything. In front of my parents. The dishes. The chores. The collapsing. The things Mom said when I hit the floor. Evan's demands. The lack of medical attention. The way they treated me like a tool, not a daughter. At first, Dad scoffed. "She's exaggerating. She just wants attention." But Officer Rayner didn't flinch. She asked me directly, "Do you feel safe here, Leah?" I hesitated. Then I said the truth out loud. "No. I don't." And the silence that followed cracked something open. They didn't take me away that day. But they gave my parents a warning. A real, legal one. They made them sign a behavioral agreement, weekly counseling, reallocation of chores, and regular check-ins from a school liaison. My parents were livid. The second the door shut behind the officials, Mom turned to me, her face red. "You just embarrassed us in front of the neighborhood." Dad muttered, "You think you're some kind of victim now? Pathetic." But something had shifted. Because for the first time, I didn't cower. I looked at them and said, "If you lay a hand on me, if you give me another dish to clean while I'm sick, if you say one more word about how I'm less than Evan, I'll tell them everything. And this time, I'll have it recorded." They didn't speak to me for 2 days. And it was glorious. But here's where it gets strange. Evan changed. At first, I thought he was mocking me. He started cleaning his own dishes. Doing his own laundry. He even made me tea one night when I was coughing. I waited for the punchline, but it never came. Then one day, he knocked on my door. I didn't answer. But he pushed it open anyway, holding a small envelope. "I saw your notebook," he said. I froze. "What?" "I was looking for my charger in the study. Your journal was on the desk." My stomach dropped. "Look," he said quickly. I didn't read the whole thing. Just a page. About the time I yelled at you for not ironing my shirt. And how you cried in the closet. I didn't know what to say. My cheeks were hot. My mouth dry. He handed me the envelope. Inside was a handwritten note and $60 in cash. The note said, "For your books." I'm sorry I didn't see it. I see it now. It wasn't much. But it was something. I asked him why. He shrugged. When you collapsed that day, I thought you were faking. But then I saw your face. And I realized I don't even know you. Because Mom and Dad only let me see the version of you that worked for them. That hit harder than I expected. I wanted to hate him. He was the reason I suffered so much. But as I looked at him standing there awkward, unsure, maybe a little ashamed, I saw a scared kid too. A kid raised on favoritism and pressure and blind praise. A kid who was finally waking up. The weeks that followed weren't easy. My parents walked on eggshells around the house. They attended the mandated sessions, but you could tell they were only there to tick a box. But the house began to shift. Evan stepped in where they wouldn't. He stood up when Mom made passive-aggressive comments. He offered to help with groceries. He even came to one of my school presentations when Mom forgot the date. The real twist, though, came when I was called into a meeting with Ms. Patterson again. This time, she wasn't alone. A man I didn't recognize sat beside her. Mid-40s, tired eyes, but kind smile. He introduced himself as David Lynn, a child advocate from a nonprofit. He'd read my case file. And he wanted to offer me a spot in their mentorship program for students recovering from toxic home environments. It's not charity, he said. It's investment. We see potential in you, Leah. And we want to help you see it too. I cried. I hadn't even realized how much I needed Simeone and Anito say they believed in me. From there, things moved fast. The nonprofit helped me apply for scholarships. They assigned me a mentor, Jenna, a college senior who'd escaped a similar situation. She became like the big sister I never had. For the first time, I started to build a future that didn't revolve around Evan's schedule or my parents' moods. I got accepted into a summer pre-college program for psychology. When the letter came, I left it on the kitchen counter. Mom didn't say a word. But Evan did. I'm proud of you, he said. And I don't think they'll ever say it. So I'll say it again. I'm proud of you. I nodded, and for once, the tears in my eyes didn't come from sadness. They came from freedom. The morning I left for the pre-college summer program was the quietest morning I'd ever lived through. I was up before dawn. I packed my last bag in silence, double-checked every document and ID, and stood by the front door waiting for the ride the nonprofit had arranged. Evan had helped me load my bags the night before. He wasn't awake yet. Or maybe he just didn't come out to say goodbye. Mom and Dad didn't come out either. I'd left a note. Nothing dramatic, just a simple thank you for raising me and a line saying I'd be back before fall. But what I really wanted to write was this. I'm not your servant. I'm not your tool. I'm not Evan's shadow. I'm your daughter, and I'm finally free. The car pulled up at 6:15 a.m. Jenna, my mentor, was in the front seat. She gave me a huge grin when she saw me. You ready? I nodded. But the truth was I wasn't sure. Not because I doubted the program, but because part of me still felt like I was breaking a rule. Like I was sneaking out of a life someone else had written for me, and any moment now, a hand would grab my shoulder and drag me back. That didn't happen. What happened instead? Jenna took me to a campus that looked like it had been plucked out of a dream. Brick buildings, green courtyards, people laughing and talking like they belong. And within 24 hours, something strange happened to me. I began to believe I belonged too. It was the little things that changed me. No one barked at me to make someone else's plate. No one questioned when I sat down to eat. When I spoke, people listened not because they had to, but because they wanted to. And somewhere between philosophy class and late-night card games in the dorm lobby, I remembered something I hadn't felt in years. Joy. Not the quiet kind that sneaks in when no one's watching, but real, gut-deep joy. I laughed so hard one night I nearly cried, and it wasn't until I was lying in bed afterward that I realized I hadn't thought about my parents once that day. That should have made me feel guilty. It didn't. It made me feel alive. But it didn't last forever. 3 weeks into the program, I got a text from Evan. Call me. Now. I almost ignored it. But something about the urgency made my stomach twist. I stepped outside and dialed. He picked up immediately. His voice was low, nervous. Leah. Something happened. What? It's Mom. I braced myself. What about her? She's in the hospital. My throat went dry. What? What happened? She fainted. In the grocery store. They said it was low blood sugar, but I think it's more than that. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to ask if she was okay. The other part wanted to say, oh, so now she knows how it feels to collapse while no one helps. But I didn't say that. Instead, I asked, do they want me there? There was a pause. Then Evan said, no. They don't know I called you. That hit harder than I expected. I didn't even know how to feel. I just thought you should know, he said softly. Because if something happens and you find out too late, I didn't want you to regret anything. I hung up. I stared at the night sky above the dorm courtyard and felt absolutely nothing. Not rage. Not sorrow. Not fear. Just this hollow ache. Like I was watching my old life die slowly in another room, but I didn't have the energy to knock. The next morning, I went to class like normal. I didn't call the hospital. I didn't text Evan. But later that week, I got another call. This time, from a number I didn't recognize. I picked up and heard her voice. Mom. Leah. I stayed silent. She sighed. I suppose Evan told you. Yeah. More silence. Then she said something that nearly knocked the wind out of me. I don't expect you to come. I just wanted to say I didn't know. About how bad it got. Until now. I swallowed hard. You didn't want to know. I know, she whispered. I was afraid. Afraid to admit that I treated my own daughter like a stranger in her own home. It should have made me feel vindicated. Triumphant. But it didn't. It just made me tired. Why are you calling? I asked finally. Because if I die and I never say it, then I don't deserve peace. My eyes burned. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She didn't defend herself. She just said, I'm sorry. And hung up. I sat on the curb outside the dorm for over an hour after that. Just sitting. Breathing. Trying to decide if that apology was too late or if it was exactly on time. When I told Jenna, she said something that stuck with me. Closure isn't about what they say. It's about what you need to move forward. And for the first time, I realized I didn't need Mom's words to heal. I needed my own. So I wrote her a letter. Not to forgive. Not to forget. But to finish it. I wrote about everything, about how it felt to be invisible, about the dishes and the bruised knees and the silence. About how I used to pray to disappear just so they'd notice I was gone. And then I wrote this. You may never truly understand what you took from me. But I'm done bleeding for people who only notice when the floor gets dirty. I'm not your ghost anymore. I'm not your second thought. I'm me. And I'm free now. I didn't send it. I burned it. And with every curl of smoke, I felt lighter. When the program ended, I didn't go home. I stayed with Jenna and her roommate until the fall semester began. The nonprofit helped me secure housing and partial tuition. I started college with a major in social work. Evan texts me every now and then. He updates me on Mom. She's recovering. Slowly. And apparently, she's still in therapy. I'm not ready to see her. Maybe one day I will. Maybe I won't. But either way, I've made peace with it. Because I finally understand being someone's child doesn't mean you owe them your body. Or your silence. Or your life. It means you're born into a story. But only you get to write the ending. Fall semester came with the promise of change, and for once, life actually delivered. I moved into a small dorm on campus. Nothing fancy, but it had a real bed, a desk that was mine, and a tiny window that let in morning sun. For the first time in years, no one barged in to ask me where their socks were. No one shouted for lemonade. No one screamed because I forgot to stir soup in a clockwise direction. I was finally free. I remember standing in the dorm hallway the first night, just staring at my own name on the door. Leah Tran. Not Evan's sister. Not the good girl who never talks back. Just me. That night, I slept for 12 straight hours. At school, I found people who weren't just kind, they were curious. About my ideas, my voice, my story. I joined a student group for first-gen college kids, and another for survivors of family dysfunction. And in one of those late-night campus discussions, I told my story out loud for the very first time. I thought I'd cry. Instead, I felt powerful. Every sentence that used to make me feel small. I fainted while doing dishes, my mom stepped over me, they only saw my brother, became bricks in the foundation of a new life. One where I mattered. And then, just when I thought the story was behind me, my phone buzzed. It was Evan. Can you come home for one day? Just one. I stared at the message. My heart thudded. Home? That word still made my skin crawl. But I texted back. Why? Mom's hosting a family dinner. She wants to talk. To you. I think she wants to say it face to face. It took me a week to decide. And then, against every instinct, I said yes. The house looked the same, but smaller somehow. I stepped inside and felt the years crash into me like all those sleepless nights and silent screams had been preserved in the walls. Evan met me at the door. He looked nervous but hopeful. She's in the kitchen, he said. Of course she was. I walked in. Mom was standing at the stove. She turned when she saw me and something flickered across her face. Not guilt. Not relief. Something closer to grief. I wasn't sure you'd come, she said quietly. I wasn't sure either. She motioned for me to sit. I did. And then, to my complete shock, she sat down across from Minette, towering over me like she used to, not pacing like she was ready to lecture, but sat, with both hands folded in front of her like a student waiting to be tested. I've been thinking a lot, she began. And I realized something terrifying. I said nothing. She continued. You could have died that day. And I didn't even flinch. I didn't ask if you were okay. I didn't drive you to the hospital. I only thought about whether your brother would be upset if dinner was late. The words hit like glass breaking in slow motion. I wasn't a mother that day, she whispered. I was a coward. I hid behind tradition. I hid behind Evan. And I used you like a tool, because I was too broken to admit I was failing. Her voice cracked. And you deserve better. You still do. A long silence stretched between us. I stared at this woman, this complex, deeply flawed woman, and saw, for the first time, not a monster but a human being crumbling under the weight of her own choices. I can't undo what I did, she said. But I'm asking, please let me try to know you again. As you are now. Not as I imagined you. My hands trembled. But I said the only thing that felt true. I'm not here to make you feel better. She nodded. I know. I'm not here to fix the past. She nodded again, eyes brimming. I know. But, I said softly, I'm here. And that's more than I thought I'd ever be able to give. She reached for my hand. I didn't pull away. Not yet. Just held still. And in that moment, something shifted, not a full reconciliation, not some cheesy movie ending forgiveness. But a sliver of truth. A fracture of connection. A fragile, trembling first step. That was 6 months ago. Since then, we've spoken once a month. Carefully. Honestly. Sometimes we cry. Sometimes we fight. But each time, she listens more. Judges less. And Evan? He's finishing a course in family therapy. He wants to be the kind of adult who helps kids like us. Go figure. As for me? I declared my major, social work. Not because I want to live in my pain, but because I survived it. And I know others are still stuck in their kitchens, holding a sponge with numb fingers and wondering if anyone will notice if they collapse. I notice. Because I was them. And now, I get to reach back. To remind them. You are not here to serve someone else's comfort. You are not a background character in someone else's story. You are the center. You are the light. And even if no one else sees it, you do. That's enough to begin.